Good morning, guys. I hope we are well. In this lesson, we're going to be learning what index form means, and then we're going to be using index form and applying it to our work from last lesson on product prime factors. So let's start with a quick multiple choice question. So this question is work out 6 to the power of 2. Sometimes we call this 6 squared. Okay, so this notation, so 6 with a little 2 on top, so 6 squared means 6 and times it by itself. So two 6's times together, and that is 36. Okay, next question. So 8 with a little 2 on top, so we say that means 8 squared, or 8 to the power of 2. So this means 8 multiplied by 8, so two 8's times together, that gives me 64. So B is my answer. And then one more. So 2 with a little 5 on top, so we say that is 2 to the power of 5. So think what that actually means. Okay, so first of all, this does not mean 2 times by 5, so the answer is not C. That's the common mistake. What this notation means is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. This means 5 2's all multiplied together. So that answer would be 32, so A is my answer. Alright, so today we're going to be looking at this thing called index form. So what does this actually mean? So this question says write 2 times 2 times 2 in index form. This is not asking us to work out what 2 times 2 times 2 is. That's not what it's asking us to do. It's saying write it in this particular way, and I'm going to show you what this actually means. So it's basically what we just done in that quiz, but backwards. So 2 times 2 times 2 in index form just means 2 to the power of 3. Index form means write it using powers, so using those little numbers on top. Alright, so what we're going to do, I'm going to give you 4 examples. It's up to you how you do this. You can either just watch me do all 4 examples, that's fine, or if you're feeling confident about this, you could pause the video and try it first independently and then unpause the video to see if you've got it right. So it's completely up to you. So for my first question, I've got 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So I've got 4 2's all times together. So what that means, that's 2 to the power of 4. So that little number on top, remember, that just tells me how many of those 2's I am timesing together. Okay, so the next one. So I've got 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, but then I'm timesing it by 3. Well, we know from that question above it that 4 2's times together will give me 2 to the power of 4. So I've coloured these ones in red, and this part of my answer is in red. And now all I need to do, I add on that times by 3 at the end. So when those numbers are different, we don't combine them. We treat the 2's and 3's separately. And this is my final answer. So I'd write it as 2 to the power of 4 times by 3. So I don't combine different numbers when I'm using index form. Okay, so the next one. Notice how the next one's very similar to the question above it. Let's sort out my 2's to begin with. So I've got 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. I'm going to make these ones red, and I'm going to put a 2 to the power of 4 after my equal sign, but I'm not done yet. So can you think what I'm going to have to add on the end here? So I've got timesing it by 3 times 3. So let's do these green. So I'm timesing it by 3 squared. So because there's 2 3's timed together, I've got 3 to the power of 2. Okay, last question. So let's sort out the 2's. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. We're going to call that 2 to the power of 4. Now let's sort out the 3's. So 3 times 3 gives me 3 to the power of 2, or sometimes we say 3 squared. And then finally, I've just got a 5 on its own. So let's do this one blue, and we're timesing it by 5. Okay, so that's how you write it in index form. So index form means write it using the powers. Okay, so let's use this index form terminology and apply it to the work we done last lesson. So I'm going to do 2 examples. So the first one I'm going to do, express 40 as a product of prime factors in index form. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do exactly the same as what I've done last lesson, and then at the end we're going to take care of this index form part. So 40 is my number. Let's begin my factor tree. So I'm looking for 2 numbers, that multiply together to give me 40. Okay, it doesn't matter which numbers I choose. Let's choose 4 and 10, because 4 times by 10 gives me 40. Okay, I'm asking myself, are either of these numbers prime? So 4 is not a prime, so I can split it up into a further pair of factors. Is 10 a prime? No, it's not, so I can split it up. All right, so 4, how can I write 4 as a pair of factors? Well, I know that 2 times by 2 gives me 4. All right, 2 is a prime, so I can circle it. 2 is a prime, so I can circle it. So I can stop those ones. Now, 2 factors of 10. So something times something gives me 10. I know that 5 times by 2 gives me 10. Is 5 a prime? Yes, it is. So I'm going to circle it. Is 2 a prime? Yes, it is. So I'm going to circle it. So let's think what we would do last lesson. So last lesson, if I want to write a number as a product of prime factors, I take my prime factors and I times them all together to give me my number. So I can write 40 is the same as 2 times by 2 times by 2 times by 5. Okay, so this is what we done last lesson, exactly the same as last lesson, but there's just one difference in this lesson. This lesson we're asking to write my answer in index form. So let's think about it. Think about what we done a few minutes ago. 2 times 2 times 2. How can I write that in index form? Well, 2 times 2 times 2 is just 3 2's all times together. So we're going to call that 2 to the power of 3. And then I'm just timesing it by 5, because that 5 is on its own. My 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 cubed. And my 5 on its own is just times by 5. So this is my answer in index form. Okay, so before you watch my next example, I'd like you to pause the video here and see if you can replicate what I've done in the previous question to this one. So for this one, you're going to start with 80 and draw your factor tree. So please try and pause the video, and if you get stuck, just hit play and then you can watch me work through this one. Okay, so I'm going to start by thinking, well, let's think of 2 factors of 80. So something times something gives me 80. Well, I know that 40 times by 2 gives me 80. So I'm going to ask myself, are these numbers prime? Well, 40, that's not a prime number. Is 2 a prime number? Yes, it is. So I can stop that one there and circle it, but I've got more work to do here. So 40, what can that be split up into? Well, I know that 4 times by 10 gives me 40. Are either of these numbers prime? Well, 4 is not a prime, so I can split that up some more. And 10 is not a prime number, so I can split that up some more as well. Something times something gives me 4. I'm going to use 2 times by 2 to get 4. And something times by something gives me 10. I know that 2 times by 5 gives me 10. 2 is a prime number, so I stop there. 2 is prime, 2 is prime, and 5 is prime. Okay, so now that these base numbers are all circled, I have my prime factors, and I can stop my factor tree there and begin to answer the question. So, thinking back to last lesson, I can write 80 is equal to all these circled numbers times together. So it's 2 times by 2 times by 2 times by 2 times by 5. I just like to write them in numerical order, it looks a bit neater. And then finally, I just need to remember this question's asking me to write it in index form. It's very, very important. Okay, so to get one more mark in my test, for example, I just need to write this in index form. So remember, that means write it so it's using powers. So let's sort my 2's out to begin with. I've got 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So that gives me 2 to the power of 4. And now I'm timesing it by 5, and that's just a 5 on its own. So this is my answer. As a product of prime factors in index form, 80 is 2 to the power of 4 times by 5. Okay, so I'd like you to pause the video here and work your way through task 1, and your answers will follow shortly, and then afterwards take yourself straight on to task 2, which is a little bit more challenging. Okay, these are your solutions to task 1. And then this is task 2, which you will also find on your worksheet. And these are your solutions to task 2.